The briefing room was huge. Lee Do-hyun stood among 49 other cadets from across the galaxy. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked like they were made of crystal. Everyone was different, but they all wanted the same thing. They wanted to become explorers for the Galactic Exploration Coalition. Commander Vexithara walked to the front of the room. She looked like a giant praying mantis, but she wore the uniform of a senior instructor. Her forearms moved with perfect control. Her eyes were large and dark. She had been teaching survival for 200 years. "Today you will learn about your final test," Commander Vexithara said. Her voice came through a translator device. "You will spend 30 days alone on planet Kepler 442b. This planet has forests, rivers, and mountains. It also has dangers, animals that hunt, weather that changes fast, terrain that is difficult." A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed a beautiful planet with purple trees and blue grass. Rivers sparkled in the sunlight. Mountains rose in the distance. It looked peaceful, but Do-hyun knew looks could be wrong. "Each of you will receive a standard survival pack," the commander continued. Another hologram appeared. This one showed a large backpack. Items began floating out of it one by one. The pack contains 47 items. Everything you need to survive. Do-hyun watched as the items appeared. A water purifier that could clean any liquid. A food synthesizer that could create meals from basic compounds. A shelter that could set itself up in minutes. Medical scanners, communication devices, fire starters that used plasma, and many more tools. Each item was advanced. Each item was expensive. Each item represented thousands of years of technological progress. The other cadets looked excited. Park Minji, another human from Earth, leaned forward in her seat. She was an engineer from Seoul. She loved technology. Do-hyun could see her eyes shining as she studied each item. "You will be alone," Commander Vexithara said, 50 kilometers from any other cadet. "You must survive for 30 days. If you are in danger, you can use your emergency beacon. We will come get you. But if you use it, you fail the test." The room was quiet. Everyone understood. This was serious. Many cadets had failed this test before. Some had been injured. A few had almost died before rescue came. "Are there any questions?" the commander asked. Do-hyun raised his hand. "Yes, Cadet Lee. The regulations say we can choose our own equipment, correct?" Do-hyun asked. He spoke quietly but clearly. Commander Vexithara's head tilted. It was her species' way of showing confusion. "That is technically correct, but the standard pack contains everything needed. Why would you choose different items?" Do-hyun stood up. He reached to his belt and pulled out a knife. It was not fancy. The blade was about 20 centimeters long. The handle was wrapped in worn leather. The metal showed signs of use and care. His grandfather had given it to him many years ago. "I will take this," Do-hyun said. "Just this." The room exploded with noise. Cadets began talking all at once. Some laughed. Some looked worried. Some thought it was a joke. Park Minji jumped up from her seat. "Do-hyun, what are you doing?" "This is not Earth. The plants are different. The animals are different. You need the equipment." A cadet with blue scales and 3 eyes spoke up. "Is this human trying to die? I have studied your species. You are not strong. You are not fast. Your senses are weak. Without technology, you will fail." Commander Vexithara raised one of her arms. The room became quiet. She looked at Do-hyun for a long moment. Her dark eyes studied him carefully. "Cadet Lee, I must ask, are you certain about this decision? The planet is dangerous. The standard pack exists for a reason. Many species have tested it. It works." "I am certain, Commander," Do-hyun replied. "Why?" The commander's voice was sharper now. "Explain your reasoning." Do-hyun held up the knife. "This is all I need. A knife is not just one tool. It is many tools. It can cut, carve, dig, and defend. It can make other tools. It cannot break easily. It does not need batteries or power. And most important, I know how to use it." Dr. Thorne, the medical officer, stood up quickly. He was a Soran, a reptile species that valued logic above all else. "Commander, I must object. This is dangerous. Human physiology is fragile compared to many species here. Without proper equipment, his chances of survival are less than 15%. I recommend we do not allow this." Commander Vexithara was quiet. She touched a device on her wrist. Information appeared in the air. She read through the regulations carefully. "The regulations are clear," she finally said. "Cadets may choose their equipment, as long as they bring something. A knife qualifies. I cannot refuse this request." Dr. Thorne made a hissing sound. Then I want my objection recorded officially. I will monitor his vital signs constantly. At the first sign of danger, I will extract him." "Agreed," Commander Vexthera said. She looked at Do-hyun again. "Cadet Lee, you may proceed with your choice. But understand this. We have never had a cadet attempt the test with so little equipment. If you fail, it will reflect on all humans in the coalition." "I understand, Commander." Park Min-ji grabbed Do-hyun's arm as everyone filed out of the briefing room. "Please reconsider. I know you were special forces. I know you trained in survival. But this is different. This is an alien world. Pride is not worth dying for." Do-hyun smiled at her. It was a small, calm smile. "This is not about pride, Min-ji. This is about showing what is possible. Technology is wonderful, but knowledge is more powerful. My grandfather taught me to survive in the mountains of Gangwon province with nothing but a knife. The principles are the same everywhere. Water, shelter, fire, food. These needs do not change even on another planet." "You are crazy," Min-ji said, but she said it with affection. "I will watch your tracking data every day. If you die, I will be very angry with you." "I will try not to die then," Do-hyun replied. High above the briefing room in the observation deck, Kang Junho watched everything. He was older, maybe 45 years old. He had been one of the first humans to join the coalition 15 years ago. He had faced doubt and prejudice. He had proven himself over and over. Now he was a senior liaison officer. An instructor approached him. "Your human is going to fail spectacularly." Junho smiled. "Want to bet on that?" "How much?" 20,000 credits. I bet Cadet Lee not only completes the challenge, but finishes in the best condition of any cadet." The instructor laughed. "You are as crazy as he is. You have a deal." They shook hands. Or rather, Junho shook the instructor's tentacle. Junho looked down at the briefing room where Do-hyun was leaving. The young man walked with confidence. Not arrogance, but certainty. Junho recognized that walk. He had seen it before in soldiers and survivors, people who knew exactly what they were capable of. "Good luck, young man," Junho whispered. "Show them what humans can do." The next morning, all 50 cadets gathered at the shuttle bay. Each one carried their survival pack. The packs were large and heavy, filled with 47 items of advanced technology. Do-hyun carried nothing except his knife on his belt. He wore standard coalition fatigues. No pack, no extra gear. Nothing else. As he walked to his shuttle, other cadets stared. Some whispered. Some shook their heads. One cadet, covered in thick fur, spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "The human will not last 3 days." Do-hyun heard this but did not react. He simply climbed into his shuttle, sat down and closed his eyes. He was thinking about his grandfather's words from long ago. "A knife is not a tool, Do-hyun. It is possibility. In the hands of someone with knowledge, it becomes everything you need." The shuttle dropped through the atmosphere of Kepler 442b. Do-hyun felt the vibrations as they descended. He looked out the window and saw the planet getting closer. The trees were indeed purple, their bark reflecting the light of the alien sun. The grass was blue-green, moving like waves in the wind. The shuttle landed in a clearing near a river valley. The pilot, a small creature with 6 arms, turned to look at Do-hyun. "This is your zone. Your tracker is active. We will monitor you constantly. If you need help, press the emergency button on your tracker." "Good luck, Cadet Lee." "Thank you," Do-hyun said. He stepped out of the shuttle. The door closed behind him. The engines powered up. Within seconds, the shuttle was gone, disappearing into the purple sky. Do-hyun stood alone. He did not move for a long time. This surprised the people watching from the space station. They expected him to panic, to rush around, to do something. Instead, he simply sat down on a rock and closed his eyes. "What is he doing?" Dr. Thorin asked. He stared at his screens. Do-hyun's vital signs were normal. Too normal. His heart rate was slow and steady. "Is his tracker working correctly?" "The tracker is fine," a technician replied. "He is just sitting there." Kang Junho leaned back in his chair in the observation room. He smiled. "He is doing exactly what he should do. He is listening." On the planet, Do-hyun was indeed listening. He heard the wind moving through the strange trees. He heard water flowing somewhere nearby. He heard small animals moving in the undergrowth. He heard birds calling to each other. Different sounds than Earth, but the same patterns. After 30 minutes, he opened his eyes. Now he began to move. But he moved slowly, carefully. He walked to the edge of the clearing and examined the plants. He broke off small pieces and smelled them. He looked at their leaves and stems. He was learning. He found the stream he had heard. The water was clear and moved quickly over smooth stones. He knelt beside it and watched for several minutes. He saw small creatures swimming. He saw plants growing along the banks. He took his knife and cut a piece of a water plant. He examined it closely, then carefully tasted a tiny amount. On the space station, alarms went off. "He is eating native plants," Dr. Thorne shouted.
"He will poison himself."
"We need to extract him now." "Wait," Commander Vexithara said. "He only took a very small amount. He is testing it. Watch his vital signs. If there is a problem, then we act." Minutes passed. Do-Hyun's vital signs remained stable. He had tested the plant using an old survival technique. A tiny amount first, wait. If no bad reaction, try more. It was slow but safe. While other cadets were setting up their advanced shelters, Do-Hyun began gathering materials. He used his knife to cut straight saplings from the edge of the forest. He collected bark from fallen trees. He gathered dry grass and leaves. He worked steadily without hurry. He chose a spot against a large rock outcropping. The rock would protect him from wind on one side. He used his knife to strip the saplings and lean them against the rock. He wove smaller branches between them. Then he layered bark and leaves over the frame. It was not beautiful, but it was solid. Next came fire. This was critical. Fire meant warmth, safety, and the ability to purify water. Do-Hyun searched the area and found what he needed. A piece of stone with a high silica content. It would make sparks when struck with steel. He gathered dry plant material and shredded it into fine fibers. He arranged them carefully in a small pile. Then he struck the back of his knife against the stone. Sparks flew. Again, more sparks. On the third try, a spark landed in the fiber and began to glow. Do-Hyun bent close and blew gently. The glow grew brighter. Smoke appeared. Then a small flame. He carefully fed the flame with larger pieces of dry material. Soon he had a proper fire burning. He felt its warmth and smiled. In the monitoring station, the staff was silent. They watched as Do-Hyun created fire using nothing but primitive materials. No plasma torch, no chemical starters, just knowledge and skill. "Impossible," one instructor whispered. "He made fire with rocks." "Not rocks," Kang Junho corrected. "Flint and steel. One of humanity's oldest technologies, 50,000 years old, maybe more, still works perfectly." As the sun began to set, Do-Hyun worked on his final task for the day. Water. He had found the stream, but he could not drink it directly. Unknown microorganisms might make him sick. He needed to boil it. He had no metal pot, but that did not stop him. He found a large stone with a natural depression. He placed it near the fire and filled it with water from the stream. Then he heated smaller stones in the fire until they glowed red. Using 2 sticks, he carefully transferred the hot stones into the water-filled depression. The water hissed and boiled around the hot stones. He repeated this process several times until the water had boiled thoroughly. Then he let it cool and drank deeply. It tasted clean and good. By nightfall, Do-Hyun had shelter, fire, and clean water. He had also set several simple traps along animal trails he had identified. They were basic snares made from plant fibers he had twisted into cordage. Tomorrow he would check them. He sat by his fire and used his knife to sharpen several sticks into points. These would be stakes for defense if needed. He worked slowly, enjoying the simple rhythm of the task. The fire crackled. The stars appeared overhead. Different stars than Earth, but beautiful. Meanwhile, in other zones across the planet, things were not going as well. One cadet had triggered an emergency extraction within the first hour. His environmental tent had malfunctioned in the heat. Another cadet had stepped wrong and broken his ankle. 2 more had called for extraction when they discovered their water purifiers were not working properly with the local water chemistry. Park Minji had managed to set up her camp successfully. Her tent was comfortable and her equipment worked perfectly. But she was worried. She had watched Do-Hyun's tracking data whenever her schedule allowed. She could not understand how he was managing with just a knife. "He has fire," she said to herself, looking at her monitoring tablet. "He has fire and shelter. How?" Commander Vexithara stood in the monitoring room, watching multiple screens. Each screen showed a different cadet. She had been teaching survival for 200 years. She thought she understood it completely. But watching Do-Hyun work challenged everything she believed. "He is using Tier 0 technology," she said quietly. "The most basic tools possible. This should not work. The environment is alien. The plants are different. The animals are unknown. He should be struggling. But he is not struggling, Kang Junho observed. He is thriving. Do you know why? Explain, Vexthara commanded, because the principles do not change. Fire is fire anywhere in the universe. Water is water. The need for shelter is universal. Yes, the specific plants and animals are different, but the patterns are the same. A human who learned to survive in Earth's mountains can apply those same principles anywhere. The details change, but the foundation remains. Vexthara was quiet for a long moment. I need to study this further. On the planet, Do-hyun lay down in his shelter. The fire burned steadily at the entrance, giving warmth and protection. He had lined the floor with dry grass and leaves, making it surprisingly comfortable. Above him, the shelter kept out the wind. Around him, his defensive stakes stood ready. He thought about his grandfather. The old man would be proud. All those lessons in the mountains of Korea. Learning to read the land. Learning to work with nature instead of against it. Learning to see tools where others saw only sticks and stones. Thank you, grandfather, Do-hyun whispered. Then he closed his eyes and slept. In the monitoring station, Dr. Thorne watched Do-hyun's vital signs drop into sleep patterns. He shook his head in disbelief. His heart rate is actually lower than it was on the station. He is more relaxed here than he was in civilization. Some humans are like that, Junho said. They are most at peace when they are closest to nature. Most comfortable when they are using their most basic skills. Fascinating, Dr. Thorne admitted. Completely illogical, but fascinating. Above the planet, the night shift settled in to watch. 50 cadets scattered across the wilderness. 46 of them sleeping in high-tech shelters with every comfort. One sleeping in a debris hut with a knife by his side. And somehow that one seemed the most secure of them all. Do-hyun woke on the second night to the sound of movement outside his shelter. His eyes opened, but he did not move. He listened carefully. Something was circling his camp. Multiple somethings. Through the gaps in his shelter walls, he saw glowing eyes. 6 of them. No, 12. 6 creatures, each with 2 eyes that glowed with a soft blue light. They moved on 6 legs each, low to the ground. They looked similar to wolves, but larger with longer bodies. His fire had burned down to coals. That was a mistake. He should have kept it higher. Fire was the best defense against predators. Slowly, carefully, he reached for the wood he had stacked nearby. He added pieces to the fire and blew gently on the coals. Flames began to rise. The creatures outside moved back from the growing firelight. But they did not leave. They were testing him, learning about him. Do-hyun recognized this behavior. He had seen it before with wolves in Korea and with other predators. They were trying to determine if he was prey. He picked up one of the stones near his fire, a stone he had been heating for cooking. It was not glowing hot, but it was very warm. He threw it toward the creatures. It landed among them with a thud. They scattered back, startled. Good, they were cautious. That was useful information. Do-hyun spent the rest of the night awake, keeping the fire high. The creatures came back twice more, but each time they stayed farther away. They were learning that he was dangerous, not worth the effort. By dawn, they were gone. In the monitoring station, the night shift had watched everything with growing alarm. Dr. Thorne had wanted to extract Do-hyun immediately. Commander Vexthara had refused. He managed the situation correctly, she said. He used fire and showed strength. The predators have moved on. This is part of the test. But those creatures could have killed him, Dr. Thorne protested. They could have, Vexthara agreed. But they did not, because he knew how to handle them. The next days fell into a rhythm. Do-hyun woke at dawn and checked his traps. On the 3rd day, he found his first catch, a small creature similar to a rabbit but with 4 ears. He thanked it quietly before taking its life quickly and humanely. He used his knife to skin and clean it, wasting nothing. He cooked the meat over his fire and ate well. The hide he stretched and dried. The bones he saved for making tools. The sinew he dried for making stronger cordage. Every part had a use. By day 5, he had caught enough game to start preserving meat. He built a smoking rack over his fire. Thin strips of meat hung from it, slowly drying in the smoke. This meat would last for weeks if prepared correctly. He used his knife to carve bowls from wood. He made spoons. He created better tools from the bones he had saved. A bone awl for making holes. A bone needle for sewing with sinew. Each day, his camp became more developed. His shelter improved too. He added a stone hearth inside, carefully built to draw smoke out through a hole in the roof. This meant he could have fire inside even in rain. He wove a door from branches that he could close at night. He dug drainage channels around the shelter to keep it dry. The predators returned on the fourth night. But this time Do-hyun was ready. He had planted sharpened stakes around his camp in a defensive ring. He had gathered a pile of throwing stones. His fire was high and hot. The creatures approached but found the stakes blocking easy access. Do-hyun stood and made himself large. He shouted at them, waving a burning branch. He threw stones with good accuracy. The message was clear. This territory was defended. The cost of attacking was too high. After that night, they did not come back. They had learned. Easier prey existed elsewhere. Meanwhile, other cadets were struggling. By day 10, 32 of the original 50 had triggered emergency extractions. Equipment failures were common. Water purifiers clogged with unfamiliar minerals. Food synthesizers could not process some local compounds. Environmental tents ripped in unexpected winds. Power cells died faster than expected in the alien atmosphere. Park Minji faced her own crisis on day 8. Her water purifier had been working perfectly. Then suddenly it was not. She opened it and found the filter membrane completely blocked. She spent 2 entire days trying to clean it, repair it, make it work again. During this time, she had to ration her water dangerously low. She finally got it working on the 3rd day, but the experience shook her. What if it failed again? What if her other equipment broke? She had backups, but what if those failed too? During her rest period, she watched Do-hyun's tracking data. He had been on the planet for 10 days now. His vital signs were excellent. Better than excellent. He had actually gained weight while most other cadets were losing it. His stress markers were lower than they had been on the station. She pulled up his location video feed. What she saw amazed her. His camp looked like a small homestead. The shelter was solid and weatherproof. A smoking rack held preserved meat. Wooden bowls and tools hung from a rack he had built. A proper fire pit with a stone hearth. Even a small area where he was experimenting with crude pottery. How? She whispered. How is he not just surviving but thriving? Commander Vexithara was asking herself the same question. She had begun studying Earth's history in detail. What she found was disturbing and impressive in equal measure. Humans had survived ice ages that would have killed most species. They had crossed vast oceans on nothing but wooden boats. They had adapted to every environment on their planet, from frozen tundra to burning deserts. They had done all of this with tools that were incredibly simple compared to modern technology. She found records of something called the Stone Age. It had lasted for over 2 million years. 2 million years of humans and their ancestors surviving with nothing but stone tools, knowledge, and determination. It was the longest-lasting technology in known history. It lasted so long because it worked. Kang Junho found her in the archives one evening. She was watching historical videos of human survival techniques. Learning something interesting? He asked. Your species is terrifying, Vexithara said quietly. I knew humans were adaptable. Everyone knows this. But I did not truly understand what that meant. You survived and thrived in conditions that should have killed you. You did it with almost nothing, and you never forgot how. We have a saying, Junho replied. Necessity is the mother of invention. For most of our history, survival was necessary, so we became very, very good at it. We built amazing technology, yes, but we never stopped teaching the old ways. Just in case, Vexthara repeated. That is wise. Technology can fail, Junho said. Ships crash. Equipment breaks. Power runs out. But knowledge never fails. Skills never break. If you understand the principles of survival, you can apply them anywhere. Do-hyun is proving this right now. On the planet, Do-hyun sat by his fire on the 10th night. He was working on a project. Using his knife and some bone tools he had made, he was carving a better knife handle. The leather wrap on his grandfather's knife was wearing thin. He wanted to protect it. He worked slowly, carefully. This knife was important. It was not just a tool. It was a connection to his grandfather, to his heritage, to all the humans who had survived before him. He would take care of it. The fire crackled. The stars shone overhead. Small night creatures made quiet sounds in the forest. Do-hyun was content. He was doing what humans had done for hundreds of thousands of years. Surviving, adapting, thriving. In the monitoring station, an instructor approached Commander Vexithara. Commander, I need to report something. The human zone is experiencing unusual weather patterns. A major storm system is developing. It will hit his area in approximately 48 hours. Vexithera pulled up the weather data. What she saw made her feel cold, despite her species not experiencing temperature the same way mammals did. The storm was massive. Wind speeds over 200 kilometers per hour, electrical activity through the clouds, temperature drops of 20 degrees. It would last at least 72 hours. How many cadets are in the storm's path? She asked. 15, Commander, including the human. Vexthara looked at Dohyun's peaceful camp on the screen. He had no idea what was coming. His simple shelter would never survive winds like that. Would he? For the first time since the test began, she was genuinely worried he might not make it. Dohyun noticed the changes 2 days before the storm arrived. The animals behaved differently. The birds left the area. The small ground creatures disappeared into their burrows. The wind shifted direction twice in one morning. The air pressure felt different against his skin. He had learned to read weather signs in the Korean mountains. Different planet, but the same principles applied. A major storm was coming. He immediately began preparing. First, he reinforced his shelter. Using his knife, he cut more support poles and drove them deep into the ground. He added 3 more layers of bark to the roof, each one overlapping like roof tiles. He gathered large stones and piled them against the base of the walls for extra stability. Next, he dug deeper drainage channels around his shelter. Water would be a danger. He needed it to flow away from his camp, not into it. He worked for hours, using a flat stone as a shovel and his knife to cut roots. He gathered all his preserved meat and stored it in waterproof containers he had made from bark and sealed with pine resin. He collected every piece of dry wood he could find and stacked it inside his shelter where it would stay dry. He filled every container with water. His fire pit needed modification. He built a stone wall around it to protect it from wind. He moved it slightly deeper into his shelter and improved the smoke hole so he could adjust it from inside. If he could keep fire going during the storm, he would be warm and could cook food. Everything loose in his camp he tied down with cordage. His tools, his racks, everything. The wind would be strong. He could not afford to lose anything. By the time the storm clouds appeared on the horizon, he was ready. In the monitoring station, alarm klaxons were sounding. Commander Vexithara stood before a wall of screens showing weather data and cadet locations. We need to extract everyone in the storm's path, Dr. Thorne insisted. Their equipment is not rated for these wind speeds. The temperature drop will overwhelm their heating systems. This is too dangerous. The equipment should handle it, another instructor argued. We specifically chose gear that could withstand extreme conditions. Should is not the same as will, Vexthara said. We will issue a warning to all cadets in the affected zones. Anyone who feels unsafe can trigger their emergency extraction. But we will not force extraction. This is still part of the test. Within 1 hour of the warning, 24 cadets had requested extraction. They looked at the storm data and decided not to risk it. Park Minji was not one of them. Her equipment was good and she trusted it. She secured everything and waited. Do-hyun received the warning through his tracker but did not request extraction. He sat in his shelter feeling confident in his preparations. He had survived storms before. He would survive this one. The storm hit like a hammer. The wind arrived first, growing from a breeze to a howl in minutes. Trees bent. Branches broke. The sound was deafening. Rain followed, not falling but flying horizontally through the air. Lightning split the sky constantly, turning night into flickering day. In the other cadet camps, environmental tents began to struggle. The smart fabrics that usually adapted perfectly to conditions started to fail. Wind found weak points. Rain got through seals. Power systems had to work overtime to maintain temperature, draining batteries faster than expected. 8 more cadets triggered emergency extractions within the first 12 hours of the storm. Their equipment had failed or was failing. Some tents collapsed. Some heating systems died. It was too dangerous to wait. Park Minji's tent held, but barely. She had to constantly monitor and adjust the stabilization systems. The smart poles kept shifting to handle the wind, but they were reaching their limits. She could not sleep. Every gust felt like it might be the one that tore everything apart. Do-hyun's shelter held firm. The wind screamed outside but could not penetrate his layered walls backed by earth and stone. Rain rolled off the carefully overlapped bark roof. Water flowed away through his drainage channels. His fire burned steadily in its protected hearth, warming the interior. He had even managed to sleep. Not constantly, but in stretches. He would wake, check that everything was secure, add wood to the fire, then sleep again. There was nothing else to do during the storm except wait it out. He used the time productively. By firelight, he worked on his tools. He carved new bowls. He improved his bone needles. He twisted more cordage from plant fibers. The storm raged outside, but inside his shelter it was almost peaceful. In the monitoring station, the staff watched in disbelief. Do-hyun's vital signs were the calmest of any cadet. His heart rate was low and steady. His body temperature was stable. His stress markers were almost non-existent. "I do not understand," Dr. Thorne said. "He should be terrified. His shelter is made of sticks and bark. The storm should have destroyed it. Yet his readings show he is comfortable. He even slept. How is this possible?" Kang Junho smiled. "His shelter is not made of sticks and bark. It is made of knowledge and experience. He built it correctly. He chose the right location. Against the rock for protection. He used proper layering techniques. He prepared drainage. He made it part of the landscape instead of fighting against it. Technology fights nature. Wisdom works with it. But the materials are primitive," another instructor protested. "Primitive?" Unyo laughed. "Those materials have protected humans for hundreds of thousands of years. They are not primitive. They are proven. There is a difference." The storm continued for 3 full days. By the end of the second day, only 5 cadets remained on the planet besides Do-hyun. Park Minji was one of them, but she was exhausted. Her equipment had held, but she had not slept in over 40 hours. Every alert, every gust, every system warning had required her attention. On the morning of the 4th day, the storm finally passed. The wind died down to normal levels. The rain stopped. The clouds broke apart, letting sunlight through. Do-hyun emerged from his shelter and surveyed the damage. Many trees were down. Branches and debris were everywhere. But his camp was intact. His shelter stood firm. His fire pit was undamaged. His stored supplies were dry. He immediately began cleanup and repairs. Some of his defensive stakes had been knocked over. He reset them. Some cordage had snapped. He replaced it. Within a few hours, his camp was fully functional again. Then he did something that amazed the monitoring staff. He began improvements. The storm had brought down trees, giving him access to better wood. He started building a proper smoking house for meat preservation. He expanded his shelter slightly. He used the experience of the storm to make everything stronger. Commander Vexithara watched him work with something close to awe. "He is not just surviving," she said quietly. "He is building. He is improving." The storm was a setback for everyone else. For him, it was an opportunity. "That is how humans became the dominant species on their planet," Junho said. "Every challenge makes them stronger. Every setback teaches them something new. They do not just adapt to their environment. They shape it. Of the original 50 cadets, only 6 remained after the storm. Do-hyun was in the best condition of all of them. He had gained more weight. His strength had increased from the physical work. His skills had improved. He looked healthier now than when he had arrived. The other 5 cadets were surviving, but just barely. Their equipment worked, but was strained. They were tired, stressed, and counting the days until the 30-day mark. Do-hyun could have stayed indefinitely. He was not counting days. He was living. That evening, as he sat by his fire cooking a meal from his preserved stores, he thought about how far he had come. 14 days on an alien planet with nothing but a knife. Not just surviving, but thriving. His grandfather would have been proud. He was proud of himself. But more than that, he was grateful. Grateful for the knowledge passed down through generations. Grateful for the skills that could not fail. Grateful for the wisdom that knew technology was a tool, not a replacement for understanding. On day 15, Do-hyun noticed something wrong. His trap lines were empty. For 3 days straight, nothing. The small game had disappeared from his area. This was unusual and concerning. He had enough preserved food to last, but he wanted to understand what had changed. He spent a day scouting the area carefully. He found tracks. Large tracks. Something big had moved through his zone. Multiple somethings. He followed the trail and found more evidence. Broken branches high up on trees. Large droppings. The smell of a major predator. In the monitoring station, alarms went off. "Commander," a technician called out. "The storm displaced megafauna from the highlands. A pack of them is moving through the valleys. They are in Sector 7. Commander Vexthera checked the map. Sector 7 was Doyun's zone. How large are these creatures? Each one is approximately 300 kilograms, similar to what you would call a bear on Earth. Pack of 6 individuals. They are omnivores but aggressive when threatened. We need to extract him, Dr. Thorne said immediately. Those creatures were not supposed to be in the cadet zones. This changes everything. Vexthara watched Dohyun's tracker. He was moving. Not away from the creatures, but toward them. What is he doing? On the planet, Dohyun was tracking the megafauna carefully. He stayed downwind so they would not smell him. He climbed trees to observe them from safety. He spent 2 full days just watching and learning. They were impressive creatures. Covered in thick fur with powerful legs and sharp claws. Their heads were large with strong jaws. They moved in a coordinated pack, communicating with low sounds. Dangerous but also predictable. They had patterns. Dohyun faced a decision. He could move his camp, but that would cost him a week of work and all the improvements he had made. Or he could drive the creatures away. Or, third option, he could use them. He chose the third option. These creatures were driving away all the small game, but they were also a massive source of food themselves. If he could take one safely and humanely, he would have meat for weeks, hide for better clothing and shelter, bones for superior tools. It was risky but possible. He spent another day preparing. He chose a location along the trail the creatures used regularly, a natural gap between 2 large rocks. He used his knife and worked for hours to sharpen a massive log and position it above the gap. This was a deadfall trap, one of humanity's oldest hunting methods. The trigger mechanism was simple but effective. A carefully balanced stick system that would release when disturbed. He tested it multiple times with small weights, adjusting until it worked perfectly. Then he reset it and baited the trap with some of his preserved meat. He built a watching position in a nearby tree, high enough to be safe but with a clear view. Then he waited. In the monitoring station, panic was growing. He built a trap, an instructor said with disbelief, for a 300-kilogram predator, with sticks and a log. This is insane, Dr. Thorne hissed. Commander, we must extract him now. If that trap fails, if he is discovered, those creatures will kill him. Vexthara's hand hovered over the emergency extraction button. She was torn. This was extremely dangerous. But Dohyun had been right about everything else. His knowledge had proven reliable again and again. We wait, she decided, but I want extraction ready. If anything goes wrong, we pull him out immediately. On the planet, the sun was setting. Dohyun sat in his tree perfectly still. He had been there for 6 hours. He was patient. Patience was as important as any tool. Just after dark, he heard them. The pack was returning from their day of foraging. They moved through the forest with surprising quiet for their size. 6 shapes in the darkness, their fur catching the moonlight. They smelled the bait. One of them, a large male, approached the gap between the rocks. It was cautious, sniffing carefully. Dohyun held his breath. The creature had to commit fully to trigger the trap properly. The megafauna stepped forward, reaching for the meat. Its weight pressed on the trigger sticks. The log fell. It was over instantly. The log was heavy enough and fell from the right height. The creature died without pain, without suffering. The trap had worked exactly as designed. The rest of the pack scattered, running from the sudden noise and danger. They would not return to this area. They had learned it was dangerous. Dohyun climbed down from his tree. He approached the fallen creature carefully, making sure it was truly dead. Then he bowed his head for a moment, showing respect. This creature had given its life to support his. That deserved acknowledgement. The work of processing the animal took most of the next day. Dohyun was methodical and respectful. He used every part. The meat he cut into strips for smoking and preserving. The hide he cleaned carefully for tanning into leather. The bones he saved for tools. The sinew he dried for strong cordage. Even the organs he used, cooking some for immediate nutrition and preserving others. By the end of the processing, he had enough resources to last comfortably for the rest of the challenge and beyond. He built a proper smoking house from the downed trees the storm had provided. He created racks for drying the hide. He organized his camp like a small workshop. In the monitoring station, the staff watched in complete silence. What they had witnessed was beyond their understanding. A human with a knife had successfully hunted a major predator using nothing but knowledge and primitive technology. I need to study Earth's hunting history, an instructor said quietly. You should, Kang Junho replied. Humans hunted mammoths with wooden spears. We hunted whales from small boats. We became apex predators not through strength or speed, but through intelligence and persistence. We learned to make tools that multiplied our capabilities. That knife is not just a knife. In Do-hyun's hands, it is an entire toolkit. Commander Vexithera turned to face Junho. I need to ask you something. Why did your species never forget these skills? You have starships. You have technology that can reshape planets. Why do you still teach young humans to survive with primitive tools? Junho smiled. Because we learned something important during our long history. Technology can fail. Ships crash. Equipment breaks. Colonies can be cut off from supply lines. We reached the stars, but we never forgot that survival depends on knowledge first, technology second. We teach both. We honor both. But we never forget which one is the foundation. That is wise, Vexthara said slowly, and humbling. My species developed space travel 50,000 years before yours. But I think we lost something along the way. We forgot how to survive without our technology. It is not too late to remember, Junho said. On the planet, Do-hyun worked by his fire on day 20. He was crafting new tools from the bones of the megafauna. The bones were dense and strong, perfect for making better awls, needles, and scrapers. He worked slowly, enjoying the process. His camp was now more developed than some permanent settlements. He had shelter with a proper hearth, a smoking house for food preservation, racks for drying hides and meat, organized tool storage, a clean water source with a filtration system using sand and charcoal. Even a crude but functional pottery kiln he was experimenting with. He was not counting days anymore. He was simply living. If they came to get him at 30 days, fine. If they asked him to stay longer, that would be fine too. He had created a home here using nothing but his knowledge, his skills, and his knife. That evening, his tracker received a message. It was from Park Minji, sent through official channels after requesting permission. The message was simple. Do-hyun, I need to talk to you. I have been watching your progress. I understand now what you were trying to prove. Will you teach me? The instructors have approved a meeting if you agree. Do-hyun smiled and sent back his reply. Yes, come to my camp. I will show you what my grandfather taught me. Knowledge is meant to be shared.